And Senator Pat Petty is unable to attend, so she asked me to chair. Thank you for everyone that's here. We've got a lot of people in the room. This is exciting. We all care about child care in Kansas, and it shows. So I do not have the agenda, so I'm not sure who the first person is to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Ruiz. Members of the Early Learning Caucus, for those of you I haven't met personally, I'm Daniel Clausen. I'm not the Early Learning Policy Advisor. I'm the Education Policy Advisor for Kansas Action for Children, which encompasses early learning. Throughout the session, you all, as you have been able to attend, have heard about some of the different challenges and opportunities in child care and early learning around the state. And today we're going to continue that series, specifically focusing from a provider and parent voice. So we've lined up 4 panelists today who are just going to tell a little bit of their story about how childcare, the early learning field, has impacted their lives and the lives of their families, both positively and negatively. Probably hear more positive today just because of the folks we've got around. But I'm going to help facilitate that and try to answer any questions that they might not be able to. I did tell them this was a very friendly group and not to feel intimidated. So don't make me a liar, please. We'll start with Tiffany, who is a home child care provider in the Kansas City area.
Good afternoon. I am Tiffany Manis, child care provider and treasurer on the Kansas Child Care Provider Coalition, which serves home providers across the state of Kansas. I have been a child care provider for 20 years this year, and thank you, and have loved my job. I love the continuity of care that home child care provides. I love that we get to meet babies at birth and then walk them into kindergarten and watch them grow. It's an amazing opportunity. It's been interesting to watch some of the changes over the last 20 years. And I love my job. I love this field. There are challenges. It's definitely helped that I have a husband who earns a good income that can help supplement our family. It would not be possible for me to do the job I do if I didn't have him and his support. I have a group license, which means there's 2 providers, and that also means I take a pay cut. So I'm a huge advocate of group care. I think it's great to have kind of the best of both worlds. We have a family setting, very close-knit group, but 2 sets of hands, 2 sets of eyes, 2 hearts, 2 sets of patience if somebody needs to step out for a second, or, kind of have that accountability of like, okay, what can I do now? So I would love to see some growth in the group child care licensing ratios, but I know that that's not top of the list, but that is one thing that I would love to see.
Tiffany, you can entertain some questions?
Absolutely.
I didn't see who was first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So you want more hands-on. So currently, what's the ratio of your?
So currently in Kansas, when you have a group license, which means you're in home, but typically means you have 2 providers rather than 1, the ratio typically only adds 2 children. So if 1 provider can watch 6, math would say 2 can watch 12, but that's not how we do our math. So 2 can watch 10. So effectively, we're taking a pay cut to have 2 providers.
Okay. Thank you.
You're good. Okay. Any other questions of Tiffany? Hey, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our next speaker. Oh,
I'll step in. Daniel had to step out for a second. I am not quite certain who else. Okay, all right, thanks.
Yeah, just introduce yourselves to us.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Jennifer Adema, and I'm the Executive Director of the Kansas Head Start Association, an organization that supports the 26 Head Start grantees in Kansas. First of all, I want to thank you for giving all of us the opportunity to speak today. I've attended these meetings for 2 legislative sessions, and I want to tell you how encouraged I am and how appreciative I am that there is a group of lawmakers that exists that see early learning as a priority for our state. So thank you to all of you. For those of you that don't know about Head Start, they are comprehensive early education programs that promote children's growth and development and focus on early learning, health, and family well-being, and they're based on local community needs. So our programs employ 2,600 Kansans and serve nearly 7,000 children and their families across the state. We provide services through home-based, home visiting, which you all are probably familiar with home visiting, center-based, what looks like typical child care programs, and then also through child care partnerships, where Head Start programs partner with local family-based or community-based child care providers. So, regardless of whatever option parents choose, children enrolled in Head Start receive high-quality experiences that they need to thrive. All of our programs have to adhere to quality standards that serve as the foundation for our mission for delivering comprehensive, high-quality, individualized programming. Head Start programs really impact their local communities. In the words of one of our programs, upwards of 150 young children in need are served in our community, which is a large percentage for our small, rural community. The built-in wraparound supports give families access to a health coordinator, transportation, family and parenting events, educational classes, and help lift whole families out of poverty and dire circumstances. Head Start allows families with a critical need for preschool access to a preschool program that otherwise might not be available or affordable. And early Head Start programs provide comprehensive services for pregnant women and young children. We know that learning begins at birth, if not before, and healthy pregnancies are essential for future positive child outcomes. Our early Head Start home visiting programs build relationships with families, and they are able to address multiple needs when they see a child's home environment and the factors behind the scenes that are affecting educational success. One of our programs talked about how the social service system can be overwhelming to anyone, but especially parents living in poverty, parents who lack transportation, parents working multiple jobs or odd shift hours, and parents who don't speak English as their primary language. Our home visitors make crucial phone calls, provide transportation to health appointments and food banks, and they are a link between the services being funded by my lawmakers and families actually being able to actually utilize the services. So in one of our program's words, you can tell I've surveyed them to get their thoughts. Many of our families, this is a comment from one of our programs, that many of our families work for below poverty level wages. We've lost many locally owned businesses in our community and many industries. And families are hardworking and they want what's best for their children, but they face barriers and challenges due to poverty. And access to safe, and quality, age-appropriate childcare and educational experiences are a need for retaining and strengthening young families in our community. The pandemic laid the need bare, but our community needs support and funding to address the gaping hole that we all knew was there and cannot be ignored anymore. Additionally, I would say our programs aren't immune to the challenges you might hear discussed today. We have seen a rise in challenging classroom behaviors in children. And we have the same workforce concerns that many childcare providers have. We are seeing people leave the field burnt out. We have major problems if we don't incentivize and actively try to draw in and retain quality teachers. And I think I'd really like to emphasize this point that one program made. We can't afford to become desperate and hire whoever we can manage to sign a contract. We need the best of the best educating our children. So I'll just close with, sorry, I could be up here all day talking about this. Despite all these challenges, our programs and our colleagues across the state continue to show up daily for the children and families in their communities. And these folks wear multiple hats: general educator, special educator, counselor, behavioral interventionist, nurse, and the list goes on and on. And there are fewer professionals with more dedication and commitment than those in early childhood. So thank you so much for your being here.
Thank you, Jennifer. Jennifer?
And I can take a question or I can sit down.
Heather, I've got. You want that? Yes. Senator Dietrich.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Great job. We're being nice, very nice. Good job, good job. So quick question. So, we can't do everything. We kind of have to, prioritize. So, and you gave a lot of great suggestions and things that you would like to see changed. If you could just prioritize a couple, not to put you too much on the spot, but what would be the two most important things for you?
I think compensation for all early childhood and child care providers has to be addressed. I don't see how we can make any progress if we don't work toward that. And that's even a challenge in Head Start programs. Head Start is federally funded and we also have state funded. But even our programs that have federal funding to increase wages, it's just not that simple. We've got programs that work in school districts. So we have a clash between increasing wages and then salary scales of school districts. We have programs that work in community action type agencies. They also have salary schedules. So it's not just as simple as even having the money to be able to do it. It's working through all those layers. But I don't feel that we're going to make, we're definitely not going to recruit people to this field if they're going to be living in poverty. And we don't want just anybody with our babies. As a parent, I could tell you a story about my own child care adventure, but you do not just want any person watching your child.
Other than compensation, is there anything else that is a priority for you?
I think that's the biggest one right now that I see. I think that's a good place to start.
Senator Reddy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for your testimony this afternoon. So you did mention compensation. I was also wondering about health care. It's so expensive, but I'm not sure that any of your facilities provide health care for everybody, mainly because you're not in that financial status where you can do it. So I wanted to know if we had something like Medicaid expansion or other health care, how would that impact staffing in your communities?
Yeah. We are actually fortunate in the Head Start world that the majority of our programs are able to offer insurance, but absolutely that's a need. It is a need that comes up even related just to the cost of healthcare insurance. I was talking with a standalone program in the Johnson County area, and they are a program that is funded for Head Start and Early Head Start, but they are not part of a larger system like a school district or a CAP agency, and the cost that they have been assessed for their insurance coming up for the next fiscal year is astronomical. So yes, I think health insurance, and I'm sure there are others in this room that could speak to that need more than myself.
Madam Chair, I have a couple of more follow-up questions, if you don't mind. Yes. The next one would be, when we talk about insurance, how about the population you serve? Do they have health insurance needs that you see which can be used for preventive measures with your students?
Well, absolutely. The extension of coverage for postpartum women to 12 months was greatly appreciated. because we are often going into homes and seeing women who, were cut off at insurance at 6 weeks. And that's just around the time that we would do maybe depression screening and identify women that really needed some additional help. So that is greatly appreciated. I think a lot of our families do fall in that coverage gap, just depending on their family circumstances.
Yeah.
So,
To vulnerable population. So my next question is not about health insurance so much as we live in a state where we have a lot of migration families and that just that have moved here for jobs, let's say, but they're not really U.S. citizen at that point. And what I found out is most of the applications have you check that box off. Is that a hindrance? Do you think you would have more people applying if that was not the case? Is that holding anybody back from applying? What's your opinion on that?
we have a lot of families who are immigrants or refugees. That question is not required to be in a Head Start program, so it doesn't matter the child's status, the family's status. I will say the public charge that was an issue a few years ago really had a lot of families worried about enrolling in the program. I would say right now our biggest challenge is staffing programs to be able to be fully enrolled. We know there are children that could be enrolled, but we struggle with staffing to keep classrooms open.
I was actually referring to the employees. Like, do you have people that might be opting in to be an employee but cannot because of a question like that?
I have not heard of that. I suppose that could be true in some communities.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate your testimony. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Fauskado.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I know that you and I and many of the lawmakers in the room, we have participated in early learning childhood fellowships. So in the most recent one this summer, we traveled, we heard that a lot of states are working with their municipalities for their corporate employers to provide some child care. So when your child care, Head Start, Child Start is short and cannot take in children, so are you working with the workforce centers across the state? I know that Governor Kelly visited Wichita on January 4th, 2023, and announced her support. So are you hearing from her office, or are you going to get that funding, that compensation?
I have not been privy to any conversations about that, but I do know that a lot of our Head Start programs and the staff in those programs are involved in community conversations in their own communities about childcare. But that specifically, I cannot speak to that.
Senator Dietrich.
Thank you so much. Thank you again. So that just sparked another question. Do you provide transportation, or is transportation a hindrance?
So some of our programs do provide transportation, particularly in the areas that serve like 9+ counties that serve rural areas. Yes, and they are all governed by Head Start performance standards and federal rules around transportation. There are a lot of rules for good reason around that. So it differs from program to program.
I was just wondering if transportation, if you look at the state and all 105 counties, and I know we don't have Head Start in all counties, is that an obstacle? Is that, a challenge?
Yes.
I mean, I would think it was. I was just waiting for you to say that.
Yes. They could speak to that for sure. Yes, it's a challenge.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Are there any Head Start programs that are coordinating staff or services with the community mental health centers?
Yes. Southeast Kansas is a really good example of this. And Hayes is a good example of this. They have some nice partnerships. All of the Head Start programs have some level of partnership with those community mental health providers. It just kind of looks different in every community.
It's with the students and the parents maybe, or the caregivers?
That also looks different, But yes, but every program has a mental health consultant. They have somebody in that role. And whether that person is a provider themselves or is a partner with a community mental health center or a behavioral health in their community, it really varies. But if you'd like to be connected to your local program, we can absolutely get you connected to learn more about that.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Any other questions? Representative.
Thank you. Can you tell me how many Head Start programs there are and which counties are covered?
So we have 85 counties where there is some form of Head Start or early Head Start service. And actually on our website, there is a map that shows those locations. And there are 26 grantees, but some of those have multiple childcare sites, right? So I don't have that total number, but I could get it for you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Hey, Jennifer, thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Okay, next we have, that's okay, Andrea Elliott from the YMCA's of Kansas.
Well, I do very much appreciate this opportunity. I kind of popped into this day a little late, so thanks for seeing us. Oh, can you hear me? I feel like I'm pretty loud. I'm from Hawaii. We talk really loud. My name is Andrea Elliott, and I have been in early childhood education and youth development for 35 years. It's really what I have lived for. I was mentioning to Daniel today, 91, 92 in college was the first time I did a worthy wage rally. The first time we closed child care centers in our community and walked through town and let everybody see what would happen if they didn't have child care. So in some ways, it's a little sad that here we are this many years later, and I'm still trying to fight for the worthy wage of our early childhood professionals. But I sure think we made some gains in this last year in bringing light to the importance of our work. One of my great pleasures as a member of the Greater Wichita Y is actually to serve on a task force for the Kansas YMCA Alliances, where we come together as youth development professionals and early childhood providers to really look at what is happening in our entire state. So I do provide childcare for all the way from birth with infants up to teenagers. So we have a variety of programs in our YMCAs across the state that really want to encompass a family through their journey as parents and be able to support them. I would say our biggest challenge is workforce, and so I will echo what I've heard. I love that Head Start was here. I came from Head Start. I was a Head Start teacher for many, many years, and that is a beautiful program of encompassing services. And family child care provider, my own child was in a family child care provider for a period of time. It takes all of us. It takes the for-profit, the nonprofit, the family child care, and programs like Head Start to serve an entire community and meet their needs. What we are really, truly struggling with from our perspective as a community-based child care center is staff. I have classroom spaces that are vacant. So if we really want to be able to meet the needs of Kansas families, we really have to be able to build and grow our workforce. And I think that's definitely a priority. And not just in early childhood, but for our school-age child care programs as well. I have great partnerships with KDHE. We have a lot of wonderful relationships with them. We get along very well with our local surveyors. I do feel like they are not as accessible, so I believe that there's a workforce challenge for them as well, and their capacity to be able to serve us. I also know from other states that we have some of the strictest regulations that are becoming barriers for us in childcare to really, truly provide the service. And of course, we're a Y, so health and safety is the utmost importance in what we do. We do want to ensure that we have quality programming. So I definitely say workforce is the area we are working on most to find ways, not just to compensate our teachers that have degrees, right? But we will always have a certain level of staff that are entry-level people that are low-wage earners. We need to find a way to get them through professional development and grow them within a reasonable amount of time so they can go up that career ladder and make more money in early childhood so they will stay. We are seeing people turn and go to other fields, and they have said to me as their executive director, I don't want to leave you, but I can't keep doing this, and I can't grow fast enough. So So I'm really here as much to advocate for families and the needs that they have as I am for the workforce that I serve, and making sure that they can someday say they've been in this for 35 plus years and still love it and still see the value of it. I also mentioned too that as a community provider, one of our challenges is really what we charge families. So I have to make a balance between the rates that I charge a family and make them affordable and reasonable for them and what I'm going to pay my staff, because those are my biggest costs, right? So I want to pay staff more, but the logical next step is I'm going to have to increase rates to families, and families are already struggling. I realize that I have an advantage as being part of a YMCA. We do offer health insurance, dental insurance, and mental health services to our staff. They're a little pricey, but better than some, worse than others, right? So I have that advantage. Not all of my partners in the community can do that. And people do need those kinds of things. For our families, they want to make ends meet, right? They want to leave their child where they feel that they're being educated and well cared for so that they can go and grow themselves professionally. But some of them get stuck because they also can't move ahead, because they also can't get ahead in their career. We do serve families on DCF, and we are able to provide scholarships. One of the stories I tell all the time is the mom that came to me so excited one day. I got a chance to take this training class. I'm gonna be, I think it was CNA, it was something in the medical field, but she had to cut her work hours. She had to cut her work hours to go take this training class. As soon as she notified her DCF provider, they cut her funding, because they can't pay for both, right? They only pay for your work hours because work is what we value. I needed her to be able to value the fact that if she went through this course, that if she stayed the path over an 18 months, she could make more and be more self-sufficient. As a Y, I could give her a scholarship money. As a nonprofit, we are good stewards of the gifts that are given to us, and we give them back to families so that they can make themselves better and more successful. Not everyone can do that, and the cost to a family is a direct correlation to what I am able to pay a family. So I'm asking you to look for ways that we can build the workforce, look for ways that we can provide opportunities for things that, I don't know if you know what it is, but there's a CDA. It's a one-year certification. It's a national certification. It's a child development associate. That's the first step for an early childhood professional to get into the field. And in most places like Butler Community College, they'll take those 120 in-service hours and turn them into 1 credit hour of coursework. So they get a head start on their associate's degrees, and then they can move into four-year colleges. But it's a process. We have to support them through that and find a way for them to also work and to get their training done. It's hard to work all day long in a classrooms of littles. I will forever be a preschool teacher. I loved reading books today with those kids on the floor. Getting to go, I will always love, but it's hard work and it's exhausting. The last thing I want to say, just to kind of, with my counterparts here talking about behavior, one of the challenges with staff is that they are seeing more behavioral challenges, and it's not just about naughty behavior that children do. It's about the emotional state that they're in. It's about their ability to build relationships with staff and with children. And so one of the things we really think that we need for our teachers to be successful so our kids can be successful is access to mental health services in the classroom. Head Start has that as a part of their system, and I know it's extremely successful. I can't afford that as a community person to go and hire a mental health professional to work in my classrooms. So those are some avenues that would probably help with that. So, there. Did I get everything? I think so. Okay. Any questions I can answer for you?
Representative Williams.
Hi.
Sorry.
It's okay. Senator O'Shea.
O'Shea, sorry.
No, you're good. First off, thank you just everyone for being here today. 2 quick questions. You just talked about the behavior of students. I think a big challenge of that is the family unit and the parents. And so what can we as a community do to wrap around services to parents and nuclear family units that need extra guidance on parenting behavior, things like that?
Sure. Well, we do in our YMCA a quarterly family night where we bring families together. We use a curriculum called Conscious Discipline, where our senior director goes in and she helps to teach parents those techniques. And our program directors do wear every hat they can. We're very well connected, so we figure out what resources to send them to. If we had more support on hand to be able to do those on a more individualized basis, and to do like monthly kind of parent nights. But again, those cost, we bring them in, we pay childcare providers to watch the kids, we need to pay a professional to come and do the classes. I think we're doing financial literacy next month for our parents. So having access to those kind of professionals at no cost to family child care centers so that we can bring them in and support the families is great. We're all a bridge. Everyone in here that does early childhood is a bridge to school, right? One of our jobs is to teach them to advocate for their child and to teach them as a parent how to access the resources necessary. And we could be better equipped to do that with funding for those kinds of things.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a challenge. So again, thank you. You talked about Kansas having some of the strictest regulations.
They do.
Can you touch on what some of those are?
Sure. So I think that, I'm going to say this nicely. Okay, it's a good question. I would probably say that for us, some of it is about how Kansas requires us to license an early childhood classroom. So I'm sure you guys have heard about capacity, right? So for me, when I write a budget for our programs and I oversee them, we only write to be at 80% of capacity. We do that because our licensing requires the minute a child turns 2.5, I have to move them to another classroom, right? So I can't fill this classroom because I have to have a space for every kid as they start to turn 2.5 to move them up, right? So we have some very restrictive. Now I can write an exception which takes 60 to 90 days to get approved to leave the child in the classroom if they're not developmentally ready. But let's one, I don't know 90 days ahead that a kid's not developmentally ready to move. And two, I don't know how someone in the state office decides by what I write out. Our professionals know whether they can move up or not. And so we need a little bit more credit as professionals in early childhood to be able to transition from room to room. Kansas State Fire Marshal has a lot to do with what we do. That regulatory piece and even opening a center would be one of my other challenges. We run school age programs all over Kansas, and we have to find a code footprint in a school building that's already got kids in it all day long. I have to produce a code footprint, and if I can't get it, I've got to pay an architect to make one just to open an after-school program in an elementary school that's already got kids in it. And that's just one of those things. It's what's required for us to get a letter that says we're approved for KDHE to even move forward. I'm getting ready to switch some of my programs. It will take me 6 months to go through the process. I'm patient. Not everybody is patient. That relationship between the Kansas State Fire Marshal's Office and KDHE and the process, I want them to be safe. I absolutely want my local fire department in to inspect and to tell me if there's anything that needs to change. But the hoops that we have to jump through just to open that program are exhausting. And some people simply don't do them. In Wichita, in Butler County, we had a church that was wanting to do infant toddler care. So that's where my priority is right now, is to try to make more spaces. You need more sinks, you need more toilets, you need that cost, right? And so there was a disagreement between local fire and state fire that cost $7,000 to the church to make a change that they found out later wasn't necessary. So it's those kind of, we need a little more cohesion in that. I think looking at how we license a classroom, right? There are differences under 2.5, over 2.5 should definitely make sure that classrooms are safe. But if you're in an elementary school and you're a principal, you know 1 year when you've got 3 classrooms of kindergartners and only 2 first graders that you might next year need to switch that classroom, right? You might have 2 kindergarten classrooms and 3 first grade classrooms. I can't do that in an early childhood program without a 90-day process of renovation and cost and fees. I have to pay them to type up a new license. That help? Sorry. I'm trying to be nice and firm. How about that?
Senator Dietrich.
Okay. Oh, thank you, Senator Brenda. So, because I'm from Wichita, so. Yes, so, and the YMCA is in my district, and I pass it often.
Downtown?
Downtown on Market,
Very good.
And I see a lot of the families going in and out, and, we've got the big glasses so you can see on the inside and see them, and so, we're doing great things, but when you talk about the licensure piece, so have you actually ever talked to a lawmaker to introduce a bill to address just that?
Not. We have been working currently, and like I said, I think we have great partners with KDHE. It's just been hard to get that action. So I do think that there are things going on right now to actually change the regulation. I'm not exactly sure what specific statutes we need.
So, and what I would suggest, I do serve on the Joint Committee on Rules and Regulations for all state agencies, and so it might be a good thing to contact that chairwoman. So I'll share that with the chairwoman, but if you have your contact information, I'll take it, because you can come there and make that presentation to us regarding KDHE and address that issue. Wow. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, Melissa?
Hi, come on up. We're doing a lot, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. We'll tag team here. Just wanted to speak to current effort, just so there is awareness that.
Can you introduce yourself?
I'm sorry, Melissa Rooker, Executive Director of the Kansas Children's Cabinet. We absolutely are aware of the issues being expressed, and we share the desire to make it better. This will be hard for you to see, but I can email. It is a schematic of the universe of rules and regs and the different agencies involved. So we can call it the state licensing rules and regs that are the barrier, but Andrea accurately identified. We have state fire marshal rules, you have local fire and safety rules, you have local zoning and planning ordinances that get in the way, and all of it has to be responsive to federal rules and regs, and nothing that we do at the state can be less than what is required federally. So what we at the Children's Cabinet are doing with a grant that we landed, it is for calendar year 2023. It's a federal planning grant through the Preschool Development Grant Program. We have written in resources to underwrite consultation help for Kansas Department of Health and Environment to walk hand in hand through a comprehensive review of our rules and regs so that we can work out a menu of changes that will help address the kind of issues our providers are facing every day, to the extent that we control things through the Kansas regulatory handbook. And I will also speak for Secretary Stanek from KDHE. She has initiated conversations with the State Fire Marshal's office starting in the fall. They are working on getting better alignment in terms of things like cross-training inspectors so that, A, you increase capacity because state fire marshal inspectors, there aren't enough of them to go around, and licensing surveyors for the agency. We need to cross-train so that they can do each other's inspections and reduce the time to get through those steps in the process. So there is a lot going on. Encourage you, the House Child Welfare and Foster Care Committee will be hearing a presentation in their 1:30 committee. It would be worth tuning in on the online recording at your leisure, because we will do a much deeper dive into these issues at that committee time. I appreciate the interest, though.
Just to reiterate, so I really believe that our relationship and what we're doing with KDHE is going to be fruitful. And this is the first time that I feel like we've really taken a lot of steps, definitely with the Children's Cabinet leading that charge to make sure that we're bringing a lot of people together. I'm hearing a lot more voices from all over Kansas. So it's always good to talk and help, but I'm not sure that statutes are the right way to start right now. We certainly don't want to make things more complicated. And I think that some at the level of KDHE change is a good place to start. So as you're hearing those things, I just hope you'll ask questions and do that. Thanks.
Senator Dietrich.
Thank you so much. Everything that Melissa just shared is something that, I think we're all very interested in. It is a bureaucratic nightmare. I mean, I think we understand that.
Yes.
And are willing to do what we can to help, knowing that we've got the federal regulations that are guiding some of these decisions that we'd like to make. But so we know this and we're going to work on that. But I guess my second question was something you said early on in your remarks, and it was about the training that your employees need to go through to get is it CDA, did you say?
Yeah, it's a Child Development Associate. It's a national credential.
And you said something about scholarshiping them so that they're able to at least afford that. Is that something?
There are some scholarships available at different agencies. They can get funding to do that. The bigger challenge is working 40 hours a week in a classroom, right? And trying to do that and go get this credential on top of that can be challenging. So some of the workforce pilot projects that we're working on are trying to find ways to bring somebody in entry level to really support them in all ways. So I talked about that financial literacy class. So we're talking about bringing these low-wage early childhood workers and entry-level people, giving them financial literacy support and education, giving them counseling support, working them a certain amount of hours, and then giving them time that's paid to do the training. So in my head, it's more of an internship kind of program. But again, you can get through that program in a year to 18 months and be making $2 more an hour. And so that's the kind of programs that we're working on to fund, and hopefully we'll continue to move that forward. I believe we have one more. Oh. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Hopefully we'll have some additional time at the end. I do want to highlight really quick before I introduce our last panelist. There is a significant difference between child care centers and home child care facilities, and let's be careful as we think about these differences so that we're not lumping together that all the regulations from one apply to the other or vice versa. I just wanted to take a minute to highlight that. But our last panelist is coming to us primarily from a parent's perspective. From the Manhattan area, here's Rudy.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rudy Benavides. I come here primarily as a mother of 2 toddlers currently in childcare programs, but I also have the unique perspective to come from a professional development standpoint. I support the workforce through Kansas Childcare Training Opportunities, or ks.gov. I've got my fan group here. So I think primarily the main issue has been for me is, as a mom, finding spots for my kiddos where we live. And the main thing I think for us has also been infant childcare. There were no spots when we got to that point in my parental leave. I needed to go back to work, and unfortunately, there was nowhere for my baby to go. And I had the wonderful support of having Casito assist me with that and that flexibility and being able to do a little bit of remote work while I was waiting for a spot to open up, as I'm waiting for all these wait lists to say, we have a spot for you, or somebody call me back and say, I'm sorry, we don't have any spots at the moment. And so that is very stressful. As a parent, as a working mom, as a professional in the field, I thought I knew everything. I thought all my colleagues are here to help me out. We're going to find something for my children. Unfortunately, that was not the case. And so having that unique perspective of, even here I am, an educator in the field, knowledgeable of the needs, I was unable to find childcare for my kids in a timely manner. And so I just come here to reiterate what everyone said here today, the need for not just quality childcare in general, but for those infant spots that we really need some support there as well.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had thought I would ask this of the last presenter, but it makes more sense for you. She talked about how families can afford childcare. What is your experience with both the federal and the state childcare tax credits?
Yeah, very helpful. Also, I'll just go ahead and say my husband was a full-time doctoral student while we were raising our kids and looking for childcare. And sadly, we were unable to find any assistance like at our centers because we were still making more money, even though my husband was in school full-time. And so we really struggled during the pandemic as well, because when we were looking for that childcare. And so the tax credits really helped sort of boost and that income assistance in our family while we were waiting for my husband to finish school, for sure.
So is it enough? What, so like kind of what percentage of your cost would that cover?
I think I wouldn't know percentage. I don't think I have that at the top of my head, but it was a great support. I don't think it would have covered it all. No, but it was a great support at the time. Mm-hmm.
Senator Foscado.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to say thank you to the chair Senator Pat Petty. This has been great information. Thank you. So what's the solution of how to garner the staff that you're saying it's hard to, since you can't find a spot? How do we recruit?
I think supporting the workforce is awesome. I think with, for example, what I do and what we do for Kansas Child Care Training Opportunities is assist the workforce in supporting them and giving them scholarships in those CDA courses that we were talking about and helping them through that process. We want to keep them. We want the staff to stay, and especially getting them from the early on out of college. Let's see how we can help you even after high school. We're doing a pathways program where we assist our high school students into getting into the field and staying. And so supporting them as well through that process, and getting them educated and trained and in love with the field, of course. And so, yeah, that's a main support.
Senator Pat Petty.
Thank you. I'm sorry I couldn't join you earlier on Ways and Means, and we had a subcommittee meeting. But I'm so glad that you're all here. Just as a follow-up on that last question, so I know one of the hardest things is being able to keep workers in the field. And so when you're talking about training and those opportunities, are you beginning to see some sort of a success for being, is that helping someone that's going into the field of early child care to see that there's a pathway forward to, well, financially?
I think the accessibility is there. I think we're reaching out into more communities and people are hearing more about these training opportunities. I think where I've seen the need become greater is dealing with our underrepresented populations. My position with Casito is to assist Spanish-speaking providers and professionals, and unfortunately there's not a lot of information reaching them. And of course, I'm only bilingual in Spanish. There's a lot of other communities that, we don't have that support in their language. And so I think reaching out to more of the professionals in Kansas, because they're here, we have professionals in the field that just do not speak Spanish or from other cultures or speak other languages. And I think being able to reach out to them would be very beneficial. We just don't have the capability to do that at the moment. Yeah.
One last question from Senator Reddy before we go to Representative Haskins, who has a follow-up question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to know, as we talk about staffing, there's some other professional areas where we do a reciprocity program. Is that existent in the early child care field, where if somebody comes from another state, do they have to get licensed all over again or take certain tests all over again? Or can they automatically apply for a position here? I start over? Okay. So thank you in unison. Because that is something we can do, is try to make sure, because we're not trying, some people assume that we're trying to reduce qualifications, but not so. We would certainly have people on board to make sure they're equivalent at some level, like we did a teacher mobility compact. The other one is loan forgiveness. So some of them, you talked about scholarships, but I'm not sure it's the same thing as loan forgiveness. If they graduated or had certain type of licensure, is there a contract they can make with a certain community or even government officials where there would be their loan would be reduced a certain percentage for each year they work there? Is that something you all talk about? Thank you.
That's a good question. I think it'd be very beneficial. I don't know if I would have that information at the moment, but yeah. I think it'd be something to think about for sure.
Thank you so much, Rudy.
Thank you.
Representative Haskins, you have a question was it for Andrea?
I'll take either of the previous speakers, whoever wants to get to the podium first.
What the question is, yeah.
It's a friendly question. Come on up. It's a teaser.
I'm going to look back at them to help me answer.
This is really, so while you're talking, being in higher ed, I immediately go to, okay, what credential do they need? And so I'm looking at Washburn Tech, which is in my district, and they have an early childhood certification. Would that certification lead to licensing so they can open up a daycare provider? Is there more education that's required?
Okay, so y'all going to correct me when I'm wrong. So do you want to answer that one? I think she probably would be better.
All right.
Yes and no.
Yeah, so I'll take the systems approach to this. We have worked for the last couple of years with a team that includes higher education, both 2- and 4-year institutions, the professional organizations for childcare, and the licensing agency, DCF, the cabinet. We have been a team, and we have nailed down a childcare career pathway. We are in the process of building a workforce registry, so we move all of the tracking of these credentials from paper-based to a digital online platform. That will all roll out in the fall of this year. So we have multiple points of entry. We are trying to meet Kansans where they are. You can be a high school graduate with no experience. There is a place to enter the career pathway. You can be in some college and decide that this is for you. You can go all the way through a PhD if you're that motivated. You can get the CDA, you can have just life experience as a provider and apply those hours. So we want to meet Kansas Child Care where the providers are and help them define their own path through the profession, but keep it high quality, keep it professional, and make sure that people see themselves and see that progression.
I appreciate that. And to follow up on that, just so the cost, let's say they're entering the career, entering the industry, as you said, the cost for this early learning certificate is about $5,000. According to, Senate Bill 155, high school students only have to spend about $4,700 while they're in high school. And so my immediate thought is, and I'm pretty sure this is a leading question, but I would imagine that you would need more than just high school students to enter in this field. Would this certification program be something that we should look at extending to more adult learners or those that are in college?
We would embrace that. We've been using pandemic relief funding to try and provide stipends and scholarships and do the supportive things for the child care workforce. We know that funding is ending, so anything you can do, and I want to applaud the legislature for the Promise Scholarship, which originally included education and early childhood. So that is a thing that you all have done, and you are, enhancing and supporting that program. Enhanced funding for high school CTE programs. Let's make sure that in the constant desire to fund pathways that will lead to high-wage, high-demand careers, we're not leaving out critical need, because this is the critical need for economic development. It drives everything. If parents do not have safe childcare options, they cannot report to work. So those efforts need to continue. We applaud you. The child care business tax credit to encourage employers to become active participants in helping open up child care assistance pathways for their own employee workforce. We have all kinds of innovative programs to talk about. There's not enough time right now, but yes, we are definitely open and thinking to all of this.
Thank you very much.
Glad we came back to you. Daniel, any other announcements? Anyone else to speak?
No one else to speak. I just want to thank everyone for being here, all of you representatives and senators, all of our participants, and folks just in the audience building that knowledge base who could answer the questions that the presenters maybe couldn't answer. One number that I want to leave you with, $10.90. That is the median wage for a child care worker in Kansas. So if you think about that, student loan forgiveness, they're not going to be paying if they're on an income contingent payment. Tax credits, they probably don't have much tax liability. That is less than $23,000 a year. We recognize the support that our public schools need, whether we all agree with it or not. That's a system that has been come because we know that it's important and it cannot survive on its own. Perhaps we need to look at child care and early care and education in a similar light. I've had a wonderful time today, but especially in all the early Learning Caucus sessions with you all this year as I have dove deeper into child care and early learning. So thank you all so much.
Thank you.
And thank you all for being here. This is our last early learning caucus for the year, forum for the year. I appreciate the participation today and those over this session so far. But as Daniel said, you know, there's lots to deal with out there. And as you look at legislative pieces, please keep in mind early childhood.